Never known a girl quite like you, lovely beyond compare. One who thrills me like you always do.
I was born in Olmsted, North Dakota, and it was 1921. Yeah, my mother and dad had moved out there, and we didn't stay there very long, but that's where I was born.
Okay. And I hear that you grew up with 6 other brothers and sisters.
Yes, yes.
How was that?
Well, that was interesting. The 2 oldest ones were gone by the time I was growing up, and so it was just the 4 others underneath me that were so interesting. Frank was 2 years older than me, and Claire, my sister Claire, was 2 years younger.
Okay.
And then my sister Lou was younger still. So we had a nice growing up.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of fun. All went to Catholic school, St. James. My brother went to Creighton. Yeah, and it was fun growing up. It was a nice neighborhood.
Where was it?
On Clifton Street in St. Paul. Do you know where that is? Do you know where the Monroe Junior High School is?
Oh, yes, I do.
I'm right across the street from there.
Ah,
Yeah, right. So that was kind of fun. We used to use their ballpark to play ball all the time and do things, and it was nice to go to take a couple classes at Monroe.
uh-huh.
That was nice.
Oh, good. Did you like school?
I did. It was nice because living so close to school, I could run home for lunch and go back to school did you know my sister Else?
Oh, sure.
Okay, yeah, she was kind of upset with me because she went to Central. And when I graduated from Monroe and St. James, my friends were all going to mechanic arts downtown. So I went to mechanic arts, and she didn't like that too well.
Why do you think
Well,
that
she
was?
thought it was a nicer school, Central.
How did you and Doug meet?
How did Doug and I meet? Well, at that age, the roller skating was a big thing, and they had a lot of roller skating in different buildings. And I don't know if you know where Oxford and Lexington is.
I sure do.
Okay, there used to be it was called the Oxford dance floor. It used to be a dance floor, but they turned it into a roller rink.
Oh.
And it was wonderful because when we tried to save all our pennies and stuff, and we'd go to the roller rink every weekend, and that's where I met Doug.
Uh-huh.
Yes, there was a whole group of people from St. Paul there, of course, and it was a different type of skating that he did. He went to the arena all the time, and one night he and his friends heard about the Oxford and decided to come to the Oxford to skate. And it just happened that it was the skating was very regulated. They had skate boys that would tell you what skate would be next, and otherwise all skate, otherwise. And she and I were sitting down on the bench, and we noticed these guys coming in, and there was this, because we knew everybody, we'd been going there so often. And this guy came in, he had a white sweater on with a great big roller skate applique onto his sweater. And I told her, I said, "Did you see who just came in?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm going to get him for a lady's choice." And I said, "Well, not unless I get him first." So somebody knew. So she got him first to ask him, and they skated. And then I asked him for the next skate, and then we skated and got acquainted that way, and kept on skating after the music had stopped. And so then he kept coming up there then too. Yeah. And
Wow.
I was going with some other boy at the time when I met him, and had a lot of boyfriends and girlfriends. We used to do things as a group together. And when I met Doug, things just changed. I just really fell in love with him right away.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. And so we started going together. And do you remember they used to have the ice follies in the auditorium in St. Paul?
Yeah.
That used to be a nice thing because we'd go every weekend to see the ice follies, and that was nice. It's downtown has changed so much I wouldn't know St. Paul anymore now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Every month it changes, I think.
A lot of changes, right?
So, where did he take you on your first actual date?
Well, he called me up then a couple of nights after roller skating and asked me if I'd like to go out. And I said, oh, yes, that would be nice. And so we just went to a movie. Yeah, so that was nice. And then there used to be a drugstore on the corner of Randolph and Snelling, if you remember.
Yes.
And they had windows all along on Randolph, overlooking Randolph. And they used to serve food there. And we always used to stop there after roller skating and get a bowl of tomato soup and a melted cheese sandwich. That used to be our thing.
Cool.
So we went there a lot and roller skated.
Wonderful memories.
Pardon?
Wonderful memories.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then we'd go swimming and play tennis a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was nice.
Yeah.
And he told me one time when he was talking to me, he told his mother when he first came home from roller skating, he says, I think I met the girl I'm going to marry.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, he knew too. He must have fell in love with you too.
Pardon?
He must have fallen in love with you too.
I guess he did right away. We just really clicked.
Yeah.
And it went on forever, didn't it, Bobby?
Hmm?
I said it went on forever.
Yeah,
I
I
loved
did.
Dad.
What was it like as a young bride with Doug away during World War II?
That was very strange because we were married when the war had just started. They declared a war here. And of course, there was the conscription. Everybody had to sign up for that at the time. And wouldn't you know, Doug would be one of the first ones to be picked to go. So that was very hard. We were just married for about a month or so. And I drove him to Fort Snelling, and that was pretty sad.
Yeah.
And he had to leave, and he went to Wyoming was his first station. And when he got stationed there, he had called me up and he said that he had a place, an apartment. Could I come and join him?
Oh.
So I quit my job and joined him, and we lived in Wyoming for a while until he was sent again to another camp. And so I came home and went back to work, and when he got settled in, he was sent to California and to a camp there. And he said he found an apartment. Could I come there? He's going to be in California for a while. So I quit my job again and went out there to California to be with him.
Oh, nice.
And so we stayed there for a long time, and I could see him, which was nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And so we did a lot of things in California until he was sent overseas, and I didn't know where he was going because he didn't know either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he was gone for about 4 years, so that was a long
Oh,
time.
long time.
Yeah. So that's how we met.
So, someone mentioned the sweater you knit for him when he was deployed and how you found out where he was.
Well, we had an APO number, a government number that they would collect the mail and then give it to the boys, and so we didn't know either where he was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know where he was, and I thought I would make something for him. So I got some yarn, army yarn, that what do you call it? That color, for army color.
The khaki.
Anyhow, and I knit him a sweater. And Dad said when he got the letter, everybody, the guys all gathered around. They thought it was something good, you know. They opened it up, and here it was the Fiji Islands is where he was. And he got a sweater. Oh, that was a bad thing.
Oh. Well, I'm sure they laughed a bit about it.
Yes, they really never stopped talking about that one.
Oh, cute. Cute story. So, what was one thing you loved the most about Doug?
Oh, one thing I loved about most, I can't think of a one thing. Everything was so wonderful. I thought he was so kind, and he was so, such a nice person. We just seemed to click and get along so good together. And he was very, what should I say? Just very kind and nice, and we had so much to talk about, and we so much in common. Yes, we both loved roller skating, which we're into a lot, and we both loved reading, and sports and things. We played tennis a lot, like I say. Yeah, so we did a lot of things together.
So, how long did you keep roller skating?
You mean how many years or how long?
Yeah.
Oh, how many years? Oh my gosh. Well, it was a popular thing at that time, and I think we would go up every single Friday. That was a set date, and we knew all the kids up there roller skating, and so it was a place to go.
Okay.
Yes, and so we met a lot of kids up there, but and that was funny because that was the first time Doug had ever gone up there. Is that bothering? We just went together for such a long time, and I was still in high school. He came to my graduation, actually, from mechanic arts, and then we started going quite steady at that time, and that was nice. And I think on Valentine's Day, he came over, and my mother does a lot of writing, and she was sitting at the dining room table writing, and he handed me a box of chocolates, a Valentine box, and he said, why don't you open it, and maybe your mom would like a candy. And so I opened the box, and there was one chocolate missing out of the thing, and there was my ring. Oh, he put my ring in there, so that's how we were engaged. And my mother started crying.
Oh.
I don't know if it was good or for bad. She was glad we were leaving, or what. But anyhow, that was my engagement, right?
Oh, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. What work did you do?
What work did he do?
Did you do?
Do? Well, of course, this was in 1939.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the middle of a terrible depression, and everybody was out of work. Mm-hmm. No one was working at all, and I did get a job at an envelope company for a while. Well, first of all, I couldn't get a job because even the men were all the men were out of work. They couldn't find a job at all, and my oldest brother, got a job in this great big building in downtown St. Paul. I don't know the name of it, but he rode the elevator. I don't know if they still have that at St. Paul or not. But anyhow, so he met all the people that lived in the building, and there were two men there. One was a lawyer, and the Igo brothers, realtors. They shared the little office, and they needed someone to do some typing and to get their mail and different things like that. And my brother told me about it, and so they hired me. And they didn't pay me at all. They just gave me the job so that I would get some experience. So I did all their typing for them and was there to answer their phones. And I had to take the streetcar back and forth on my own, and I never got a dime of pay. So I just worked for nothing, can you believe it? Just to get the experience at that time, because it was so desperate with everybody out of work. And so that did help, a lot in my work. And then I liked doing secretarial work. Yeah.
So did you work somewhere else then?
No, I stayed with it. Well, I worked at this envelope company for a while,
Yeah.
and I was lucky to get a job at that time, and then that's when I met Doug,
Oh, okay.
and so
Yeah.
so I kind of met him through my high school years, and then, like I say, he came to my graduation, and then soon after that, I told him I can't get married until I'm at least 20, and so we waited until 20, and he gave me the ring,
Oh,
and he was working at the time at Sterling Electric,
okay.
yeah, and so we went together and had a real nice time going swimming and playing tennis and just doing things like that, picnics and things, and yeah.
You've always had a love for reading. What enjoyment do you get out of reading?
That's hard to answer. I just, well, I always liked history, and in high school we took history as a subject in school, but they never really taught us American history. It was always ancient history and stuff that I wasn't interested in, and I really never knew about how our president was elected and about our government, and so I started reading then and got so fascinated with our way of government, and so I really and then I liked a lot of fiction too, but I like more government work, government reading.
What are you reading now?
Well, I'm just reading Theodore Roosevelt's book, and then I think the one over there on I think George Washington. Yes, and it was really interesting because I don't know if you like to read or not, but there's a Ron Chernow. Do you recognize the name? Chernow? He has written these very, very thick books on Hamilton and Jefferson and even George Washington. In history you just studied the basic things, and you never really knew who those people were. And so it was very interesting reading their life stories. Yeah, I really enjoy that. And so, but that's what, I don't like too much fiction. Yeah, just more history, yeah.
Not the real thing, huh?
Yes, right.
So you and Doug hosted foreign students, I understand?
Did we what?
You hosted foreign students from other
Yes.
countries?
We did. My youngest daughter, Carol, was interested in that. Barbara was too at one time. She wanted a student we got a gal from the university, and I think Barbara lost interest. Nancy was from Taiwan, and I think Nancy lost interest too, and she was more my friend at the time instead of yours. And I still visit. In fact, I just wrote her a letter on my iPad the other night, and she's living in California now, and she's married and has 2 sons, and they came to visit us when she married, and I still write to her, and her birthday's the same day as mine.
Okay.
And so we keep in touch by iPad now, which is very nice. Yeah,
Wow.
I just talked to her last night on the iPad. Yeah.
So how long have you had an iPad?
How long? Well, let's see. Did you give me that, or did Carol? I think Carol did. Oh, how long has that been? Do you know? Well, maybe I'm not too good at it though. Yeah, I've got a lot of people helping me with it, but I think I've had it for about at least 5 years, haven't I? Yeah, right. Yeah, and so that's kind of nice. I have a computer downstairs too that my husband used to. What did he do? He wrote music, and he did a lot on the computer. In fact, he used to use this piano here to compose, and he has written several songs, that for that played in church. They had a big program called the 49ers, and it was the time of the Andrew sisters, if you remember. And Doug had written a song for me when he was on the Fiji Islands, and the gal at the church, the music director, saw the music, and they featured it at a big dinner, and so that was kind of nice.
I have never known a girl quite like you, lovely beyond compare. One who thrills me like you always do, and leads me to care. My love for you, it lights each star at night, then follows through and gives the moon its light.
That was kind of nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
very nice.
The only trouble was all of the church came to the dinner, and then afterwards they had Doug's orchestra there, this 5-6-piece orchestra that played his music. And I don't know if you know Father, I can't even think of his name now, it slips my mind. But anyhow, he said that we had to go out there, just the two of us, and dance. And of course we didn't dance, together ever. We never did dance too well. We always roller skated.
Yeah.
And so if you could imagine, I told Father Bill, I said, this is about the worst day of my life, getting out there and having everybody stare at me while we were dancing on the floor. But anyhow, they played Doug's music, and that was nice.
Oh,
We were able to celebrate our 70th wedding anniversary, though, which was nice.
I understand you took a trip to Czechoslovakia. So it was you and Doug and Lou and Jack.
Yes.
So could you tell a little bit about that?
Well, that was really interesting because Doug made the reservations here, and he wanted the lady he was talking to that we wanted a bigger car because there was 4 of us going to be driving after we got off the plane. And when we arrived in Germany, they said they were sorry, but they didn't have our car ready for us. Could we take what was the name of their car, their German car? I forget the name of it. I can't think of the name of the car. But anyhow, I thought, well, that's pretty nice anyhow. So we did. And we drove all through Czechoslovakia. Mm-hmm. And that was very hard to do it because at the time it was the Russians had been there and taken over. Mm-hmm. And so everything was Russian. And it was very hard to see how the towns were. All the streets had speakers, not all the streets, but some of the big streets on the corners, they had speakers, and they were sending out Russian messages constantly. And it was very hard because we were constantly being watched, you know, and it was very hard to be there. So we did visit my mother's niece at one time. Her brother had died in the meantime, and we did visit her, and she was very nervous about our car because it was a nice German car that they had given us, and she said, be sure to put the car in the back of the yard because in the morning the tires might all be taken off. So it was very hard living there, and we didn't stay there too long because we were constantly watched and searched when we came and went, and so we then drove around Germany and the rest of Czechoslovakia and had a good time with my sister and her husband.
Okay. And what was your favorite part of Czechoslovakia?
My favorite part of Czechoslovakia?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was just seeing where my mother was born. That was so nice because it was a small town, Vesely, and we did, in our poor Czech, we did manage to get through to some of the people, and they took us into my mother's church where she was born, and he stayed downstairs and he played the organ for us while we just looked around, and that was very nice. And we visited my dad's town too, and we were so surprised. He was born in Strakonice, which was a small town south of where my mother was born, and we were surprised to learn that their music was popular American music, and that they made fez hats. That was their big thing for the Shriners.
Huh?
That was, I thought, an unusual thing
Yeah.
for the country to do, yeah. But anyhow, that was very nice, and it was, of course, during wartime, and it was all overcome with Russians at the time, so it was a little bit hard to live there.
Yeah.
So we just visited for a short time.
Okay. How did you feel about seeing where your mother was born? Was that
How did I what?
how did that feel to see where she was born?
Oh, that was so nice because he opened the church up for us, and this was the church where my mother was born and baptized, and we went upstairs in the upper part of the church, and he stayed downstairs and he played the organ for us while we wandered around. I thought that was very nice of him to do. And it was a lovely little town. It was so nice, and there was nobody there yet except my mother's niece that we could meet, and she was very much involved in the Russian part of the living. So it was not easy living there, trying to get by. Yeah.
I'm sure.
So we were constantly watched, and every time we stopped, our car was inspected all the time, and we were just knew that we were watched all the time, and we just were anxious to get out of Czechoslovakia. And we then drove into Germany and through Germany, and it was very nice and clean, and you were free. And what an amazing thing that was to be free. Yes, to know that the people could do what they wanted to do and say what they wanted to say. So that was interesting, and I felt so sorry for the people who lived back in Czechoslovakia. And that was at the time when, was it Churchill and Stalin and Roosevelt got together, and they were dividing the countries, and they happened to give Czechoslovakia to the German, to Stalin, and they changed it, into what it was there for such a long time. They were under the Russian rule then for a long time. So yeah, it was hard. So anyhow, so we are so lucky to be so free as we are.
We are. So have you ever been back to California? Have you visited Connie?
Yes, Doug and I did. We stopped and visited her and stayed with her for a few days, and we just had a really wonderful time. And Connie's a wonderful hostess. She just really takes care of the people, doesn't she, Barb? Yeah. And so we had a wonderful time with her, and she keeps asking me to come back and stay with her, and I told her, I said, my flying days are over now. We did so much of that, at one time, and I'm glad we did. But, yeah, I talk to Connie often, though. We were just looking at some pictures today in my desk, and Barbara said, you've got to write who these people are on here, because
I know.
I got a whole stack of pictures, and I don't know if you do that or not in your family, but I should really put names on them, or else get rid of them. It's hard to do that, because I've looked at some of my mother's and I've wondered who these people were. Right? Yeah.
I would like to have you talk about each of your children.
Oh,
And,
well, you
there's-
met Barbara.
Yeah.
She's the oldest. Yes, and then Douglas is a year younger than Barbara, and he's in Montana now, and I do email him back and forth, and I haven't seen him now for a while. And then Patty's the middle one, and she's a nurse, and she's now in Arizona with this group of the relatives out there, because my great-grandson is graduating. And but anyhow, I'm amazed at the beautiful big houses they have in Arizona. A great big beautiful stucco one with a pool outside, and there's 6 of them living in there. They have 4 bedrooms, so it's a good sized house. And so there, and Patty is there with her husband, and then Carol's the youngest now. She's still working, and so she's at work today.
Yeah. And I met Carol
Oh, you met Carol?
the first time.
Oh, you did, that's right. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. And so, yeah, she's the youngest.
So, can you think of something that you're really proud of about each of them?
Think of something what?
That you're proud of? That
Oh, that I'm proud of.
special about them?
Well, I'm proud of my kids because they're all such good kids, and and they are so good to me, and it's so nice. Like Barbara lives so far away, but still she comes over real often, and yeah.
What were movies like when you were young?
What were movies like? Oh, they were really quite wonderful, very nice, and we didn't go to a lot of movies, but it was nice, and a lot different than they are now. Very nice. Yeah, I remember Connie's mom, Else, took me to my first movie, and I thought this was real. You know, it was, I forget the name of it, but it was a wonderful movie. And did you know her friend Olga? The 2 of them, they're very close together, you know, and so they took me to the movie to see this, and I thought those people on the movies were real, that they were acting, you know, like the real thing, and so that was nice. Movies were interesting at the time, very nice and very good and very clean, not like movies now. I don't know. I haven't been to a movie in years, but from what I hear, it's not that great. Yeah. So.
Could you tell the story about you and Doug buying this house?
Well, my husband worked in Honeywell, and we lived on Park Avenue in Minneapolis in a big, beautiful 2-story stucco house, and driving back and forth was kind of a bad thing. He had to drive through town every morning to go to Honeywell. And so one Sunday he said, let's just go this area. I'd never been in this area before. And he said, let's just kind of look around. And we drove around and saw this whole area. There was nothing in here. There was one house on the corner across the street, and that was all. And the rest of it was just all dirt and hills and stuff, and big signs out here, who owned the lots. And so I said, well, let's look him up and talk to him and see, you know, and Doug kind of liked the area. And so we found him and at his desk, his job. And anyhow, and he said he owned all these lots back in here, and we could buy one. And so we came out here again, and Doug, my husband, picked out this lot. He liked this one. And so we got busy and started looking at houses and got some plans and started drawing up our own plans and decided to build a house. And the first thing I did was go over to the church over here to St. John's when we moved here. And old Father Paul Koszelniak, an old Polish priest, was the head of the parish at that time. And I rang the doorbell. He answered the door and asked me to come in and sit down. And so we sat down and started talking. And I told him that we had just been looking at lots. And I said, I'd like to build here, but I said that I've got 3 little ones that I want to go to school. I said, is there room in the school? And he said, well, if there isn't, we'll make room. He said, I said, well, that settles it, then we'll buy the lot. And we did, and we're close to the parish, so which is nice. And we started, that was fun, because Doug and I started drawing up plans and looking at plans and stuff, and so we built this house anyhow, and so that's why I don't want to move. The kids want me to move and go into one of those homes like your mom is in. And that sounds very nice. And I probably should do that because it's very hard to do everything outside and inside. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I kind of wish either the dear Lord would hurry up and I'm going to be 100, pretty soon, and I think it's about time I leave. But anyhow, I hope to stay here because we kind of built the house ourselves. Yeah. So this was nice, and I've enjoyed living here, and it's been a very quiet, nice neighborhood. It still is. Yeah.
And did you enjoy gardening?
Gardening? Oh, I love gardening. Yes, my husband never gardened. He was an only child, and so I got him interested in it, and he became very interested in gardening. And oh my gosh, we had such beautiful plants, and he would with all these big rose bushes and all that kind of stuff, and he took care of all that. And so it was kind of fun. Sometimes we'd be out there in the evenings, it'd be getting dark, and we still hadn't gotten in to have dinner. So he loved gardening just as much, so that was kind of fun to do it together.
Sure. What's your most favorite thing about your yard?
About my yard? The privacy. The backyard is all trees and bushes and stuff, and there's nobody except they live way down the hill from us. We're kind of up high. And so that's very nice. It's very, very private. Mm-hmm. And I like that very much. It's nice and quiet. And, yeah.
What was your favorite place to travel?
Spain. We've gone there a couple of times. And we had an exchange student from Spain, and my daughter, youngest daughter, was an exchange student over there. Oh. And anyhow, and so that was very nice. And he was very interested in Spanish language, and we were both studying Spanish. And I think Spain, although it was nice traveling in Europe too, seeing all the different countries and everything, but I think I like Spain the best, yeah.
Who was your best friend growing up?
Oh, my best friend, her name was Marion too, and she was the dearest friend, and she still is, and anyhow, we grew up very close together. We had her mother and dad were separated, and she lived with her aunt and with 2 other cousins, and so she didn't have a very comfortable place to stay. And we had a great big house, one of those great big screen porches, on the front of the house, where you get this old roll-out cot, you can sleep out there. And Marion used to come over, and we'd sleep on the porch, and my dad made some shades for the porch, and so our favorite thing was going roller skating, because this was the year or the time when roller skating was very popular. They had indoor skating. I don't know if they still have that or not, but I mean, we loved skating. And that was our whole life. We used to save the money from our tokens and walk to school, and then pay for our roller skating, and so that was fun. And We spent all our time rollers. That's where I met my husband. Roller skating, yes. I remember they had, of course, we went so often, we knew all the kids there, the ones that came regular all the time. And they'd have different skates where they would have you sit down in between skates, and then they would announce what skate it was going to be, and couples only or a triple skate or whatever. And so anyhow, we were sitting there, and my friend Mary and we saw these two guys coming in to the roller rink, and I said, "Did you just see who came in? He had a white sweater on with a great big skate sewn on his sweater." And I said, "I think I'll ask you for ladies' choice," and she said, "Well, not unless I get them first." And so she did. She got them first, to skate, and then that's when I met Doug, and then from then on, I think we just saw each other all the time. Yeah. But that was, roller skating was our life at that time. And this was during the really terrible depression in the 1939, 40s. It was a very, very, very hard time for everybody. Didn't have any money. It was a bad depression.
Yeah, it was. This question came from one of your family members. Do you remember any interesting stories about your parents? How did they meet? And how did Grandpa get over to America, and when did Grandma get over to America?
My mother studied to be a teacher over there in Prague, and she met my dad at that time, and he moved here. He had my mother's sister had married a man from here, and so when my dad came here, he stayed with them. And then he had a job working and would send my mother money to come. She had to take a boat from Paris to the United States, to New York. And do you know, it took her 5 days to come from there to New York on my boat. Anyhow, he met her, and then that's where they started their life together, and so, but that's about it. My mom and dad, yeah.
Cool. Is there anything you would like to say about your grandchildren?
Oh yes, my grandchildren. Yes. Yeah, we're very close to them. And we still are, and of course now they're all grown, and it's still fun to get together with them and see them, and the bigger girls, and mostly girls. We only have a few boys in the family, and so that's very interesting because we all get together real often. Okay. Yes, so that's nice, and yeah. Trouble is now they're all grown and they're all moved away to Arizona and to Montana and all over the place, so it's not as easy to see the kids anymore. Yeah. So, but we do have one, my middle daughter's son works in St. Paul, and he has two little boys that come over real often, and they're really fun to listen to, and they're both so different. One is just like the mom and the other is just like the dad, and so it's fun to talk to them, and they're very, very serious little boys, and we enjoy them very much. Yeah, so that's kind of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyhow.
This is a hard question. What do you think about our country today?
What do I think about our country today?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a lot harder to live in. I think it's a much harder thing for the young people to carry on. There's so many different forms of politics in our government, and I think it's hard. It's very hard, and I think I think there's an awful lot of problems that we're having these days, and it's really too bad because it never used to be that way, and it used to be very like we could walk any place and feel safe, and I don't think you're too safe anymore with young people walking, you know, especially in the evenings. So it's changed a lot. Yeah, right. So.
But do you have any words of wisdom for your family?
Words of wisdom for what?
For your family.
For my family. Oh. I try not to. But anyhow, it's I just think it's interesting to be an example more than it is to preach, you know, to the kids. And I think they are all good kids, and they're really such good kids, and we get together a lot, and we're very close, which is nice. And that's very nice. And I know we used to see Roberta and Connie all the time. Alice and Bernie would come over, and we'd spend a lot of time together, go on picnics and different things. And I can always remember Connie. She was the one that was the busiest one. She was always out there gathering things to burn in the pot, you know. She was always the helpful one, doing the hard things. And we visited a lot back and forth, which was very nice, very close. Yeah, stayed close together, yes. And it was nice seeing all the kids grow up, and we're still very close. It's nice. So that's about it. So we have, I think, a very nice family, a very close family, and everybody is so happy always to see one another, and we do get together an awful lot, which is nice. And so I think that's quite important. Yes, and they're all growing up. I can't tell if they're grandsons or great grandsons now or what they are, because there's so many of them. But anyhow, it's nice to see and hear about everybody. So I've lived a very interesting life, a good life.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
Nice family.
Well, and now you're going to be 100 years old, and that's pretty special.
I never look forward to being 100 years old. Somehow it just comes, and all of a sudden you're old. And there I am. What can I do about it? Nothing much, I guess. But anyhow, yes, I'll be 100 years old. And it bothers me that I can't do the things that I used to like to do. But I can still stay in my own house and feel free to do what I want. So that part is nice. Really
Is there anything else you
No.
want to say?
Really not, except that the years go by so fast that one doesn't realize, do they, how fast they go. And I think, have you ever read the book, Ruth Chetterton's book on the gift of ages? She writes, just because she's a former nun, or she is still a nun, but anyhow, I never realized before that there's such a category. You know, their little ones are growing up, and then there's the little teenagers, and then the teenagers all of a sudden become the big kids, you know, and you're just really old. And that's how fast the years go by. So I think people should really stop and think about that and enjoy their life as much as possible, because it doesn't last too long. And some people goes a lot faster than others. But anyhow, it's been a good life. And 90 years old, 100 years old, that's a lot of years. And things have changed an awful lot in that time.
Yes, they have.
But anyhow, I'm still here, and I'm still happy being here.
Good.
I have never known a girl quite like you, lovely beyond compare. One who thrills me like you each star at night, then follows through and gives the moon its light. It causes spring to bloom in all its glory, makes me want to sing my song of love's sweet story. Dreams come true, I hear an angel sing my love for you. It hallows everything. It leads me to a paradise for two, my darling. That's my love for you. Dreams come true, I hear an angel sing my love for you. It hallows everything. It leads me.
You know, their little ones are growing up, and then there's the little teenagers, and then the teenagers all of a sudden become the big kids, you know, and you're just really old. And that's how fast the years go by. So I think people should really stop and think about that and enjoy their life as much as possible, because it doesn't last too long. And some people goes a lot faster than others. But anyhow, it's been a good life. And 90 years old, 100 years old, that's a lot of years. And things have changed an awful lot in that time.
Yes, they have.
But anyhow, I'm still here, and I'm still happy being here.